since the older man generally headed to bed about now. But unlike Bowie, Lou was a trained vet, and he could immediately start treatment on the cubs if they were seriously dehydrated or malnourished. As Bowie waited for Lou to descend from the pickup, the front door to the old ranch house banged open. A woman, backlit by the porch light, waved. Although Bowie couldn't make out her features, he could easily spot the flash of her fiery red hair. As she stepped out of the brightness and moved closer, the moonlight washed over her and gently illuminated her face. Her brown eyes widened at the sight of him. Bowie couldn't quite read her emotion. Shock? Dismay? Recognition? Considering the size of their town, the latter was likely. But despite the fact that she seemed vaguely familiar, he couldn't place her. And he was pretty certain he'd remember a woman like her, all curly auburn hair, curves in the right places, and expressive chocolate brown eyes. She exuded an earthy sexiness that appealed to him, awakening sensations that had lain dormant for far too long. Between his responsibilities as a single dad with an 11-year-old daughter and his duties at the zoo, Bowie hadn't been with a woman in years. Unfortunately, he had no time to appreciate this one. At least, not now. Not with abandoned cougar cubs to rescue. The woman focused her attention on Lou. "My parents are inside if you want to wait with them. It's a pretty difficult climb to the cubs." Lou thanked her and headed to the homestead. The woman waited until he had disappeared into the house before she whirled back to Bowie. She thrust a headlamp in his direction, smacking his chest in the process. "Here, take this. You'll need it to see," she bit out before she turned and strode gracefully toward the rock promontory silhouetted against the starry sky. Something about her gait reminded him of an Amazon warrior, an irate one. Although he'd spent most of his youth with adults angry at him, some with cause, some without, Bowie wasn't accustomed to facing a hot blast of fury anymore. He lived a quiet life now, and he had no idea what he could have done to upset this particular woman. It would be his crappy luck that the one female who attracted him also instinctually hated his guts. When the woman reached the base of the rock formation, she bounded up the lower boulders with the sure-footedness of a mountain goat. Even if she had taken an immediate dislike to him, Bowie found his eyes following her lithe shape in the dim light. She moved with a combination of fluidity and unbound energy that made him wonder what she'd be like in bed. Forcing those unprofessional thoughts from his mind, he concentrated on finding footholds. It wasn't easy keeping pace. His reluctant guide clambered up the cliff almost as quickly as she walked. Bowie figured she must know the land pretty well, since only moonlight illuminated the landscape, and she hadn't turned on her headlamp. "I guess you've climbed here before," he said. She nodded, but she still didn't seem too happy. "Yes, my mom's folks, the Hallisters, lived out here, so I grew up playing on these rocks with my brothers. My parents moved out here after my dad's retirement." That could explain why she looked vaguely familiar, but not her anger toward him. Perhaps he'd seen her around as a kid when she'd visited her relatives. She looked close to Bowie's age, and in his early teens he'd worked on a ranch nearby. That was until he'd broken his leg, and the rancher, who'd been his foster parent, had thrown him right back into the system. Bowie had never known a real home before Lou and his late wife, Gretchen, had taken him in after yet another guardian had kicked him out on his 18th birthday when the reimbursement checks stopped. Deciding to try one more time to befriend the woman, Bowie asked, "So, did you come to Sagebrush Flats a lot as a kid?" She gave a snort of patent disgust. Even though the climb had just become more difficult, the woman picked up speed. Confused as hell, Bowie had no choice but to follow her up the cliff.